Rengar is one of the most polarizing junglers in League of Legends. The outplay potential with bushes is insane, but he's incredibly hard to play well, so a lot of people int with him. He also has a famous rivalry with another assassin, Kha'Zix. So I thought it would be fun to try the two assassins back to back and see which one I liked better with this video, obviously focusing on Rengar. Anyway, for the next 10 hours, I'm going to try to learn Rengar in 3 steps. First, normal games, second, do some research, and third, play some ranked games. I'm doing this because I'm trying to learn every champion, so one day I can make the greatest Viego video ever. So what runes and build do you go on Rengar? Well, the most common rune on Rengar is Conqueror, which is honestly a little bit surprising because he's generally considered an assassin. However, he's actually very good at activating Conqueror in the early game due to his low cooldowns, his extra ability usage with Fury, and the fact that he can constantly just jump around during fights. For your build, your main option is Assassin, where you want to build things like Youmuu's Ghostblade, Profane Hydra, Opportunity, Edge of Night, Last Whisper, and then maybe a survivability item like Sundered Sky or Death's Dance. The second build is a bruiser build, where you go Sundered Sky, Ravenous Hydra, Black Cleaver, Spear of Shojin, Spear of Visage, and Death's Dance. I was surprised by this build, but as of the making of this video, these were some of Rengar's most built items, so I decided to check it out. This build did less damage, but focused more on surviving fights with your W and utilizing the Conqueror rune more efficiently than the Assassin build. Was it better? You'll just have to wait and find out. And with that, on to some normal games. Immediately, I started having fun with Rengar, getting a gank off before the 3-minute mark, and my confidence soared as I got my first kill just a few minutes later. That is, until my inexperience started to show and I started making silly mistakes because I didn't know what his abilities did, to be quite honest. Then, that silliness turned into actual frustration as I continued to struggle and I realized, yeah, I don't know what this champion does apparently. Why do I do nothing? Where did my damage go? After kind of fumbling the last game, I was definitely more determined than ever to learn Rengar because, to be honest, assassinating people is just really fun. And the more I played Rengar, the more comfortable I got with his abilities, definitely understanding them way better than the game before. Yes! We're on a killing spree! This is so much better than the first game. Even if some kills were not deserved, but I clearly had a better idea of what I was doing now. Oh my god! Dude, I have no idea what I just did. I wasn't totally sure how to combo with Rengar yet or fully utilize his kit, but progress is progress, and I was actually starting to rack up some kills this game. This progress only continued as I racked up even more kills in my next game. Like, I know I said Rengar was hard to play at the start of this video, but I'm starting to think this guy's kinda easy, no? I even started making some pretty clean plays on Rengar. I'm an idiot! Or am I? I'm the best! Holy shit, I might actually be a fucking gamer. I don't even know what the hell I just did. Wait. Oh! Oh my god, please, 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 I played this so well. I played this so well. Ah! Dude, I'm the best. I'm literally the best. But then I would watch how slowly I actually was doing my combos and realized I had a lot to learn about Rengar. I mean, look how much I struggled to kill this Braum. You can actually see me hesitate and think about every ability that I'm using this fight. I was starting to get hard outplayed because I didn't know my damage and I just assumed I'd be able to one-shot people. I was so focused on damage that I was forgetting to use my W in close fights. And, in typical E-Core fashion, when I started to lose control of a game, I'd panic and make Hail Mary plays that just did more harm than good. Yeah, I had a lot of work to do in Rengar. Over the first hour or so, I discovered a few key mistakes I was making on Rengar. First, my ganking needed a lot of work. Without ult, Rengar has no real gap closer, so you kind of just walk at the enemy. What I need to do is figure out how to flank the enemy better, or lane gank and use the bushes in lane to gank. Second, I was just mashing buttons instead of actually comboing and using my abilities correctly. Like in this clip, I accidentally used my empowered W instead of my empowered Q because I was just mashing buttons, which got me killed. Third, I wasn't considering the enemy's mobility at all. I would just expect to instantly one-shot them, but instead they just dash away, and then I'd be the one getting one-shot. And fourth, I have to stop playing so aggressively without bushes. I am literally a melee minion without bushes or my ult. It's pretty embarrassing. But you know what? Maybe a new build will help me. All right, time to try Bruiser Rengar. Leaping into my first bruiser game, the whole vibe of this challenge immediately changed. I wasn't as stressed about getting kills, and my whole mentality around this champion changed to a more team-focused playstyle. More about objectives and assists than just assassinating and getting kills. My burst damage was definitely lower. However, I also wasn't getting punished as hard when I messed up combos. I simply had enough healing and health to survive most fights. I mean, on the one hand, the assassin build probably would have one-shot Vladimir here, but on the other hand, I also probably would have been one-shot myself if I had messed up the combo. Which I did, by the way, using empowered W instead of empowered Q again. The build was off to a pretty decent start though. I was even kinda confident going into my next game, but that's when the metaphorical shit hit the metaphorical fan. All of a sudden, going against Xin Zhao, another bruiser who I'd done a 10-hour challenge on, quickly reminded me about how strong actual bruisers are. And even though the enemy Kayle was here and ulting Xin Zhao was stupid, Xin Zhao literally ended this fight with full HP, and I died almost immediately. Fast forward to near the end of this game when we both had the same amount of kills, the same amount of assists, and almost the exact same amount of minions. And this fight wasn't even close. I see the appeal of this build, and healing at the end of a fight like this is insane, but without the kit of a bruiser, this build just wasn't feeling very good.
Wow, he let me live! Dude, that was not even close!
After these games, I realized I gotta go back to the assassin build. So I did some research on YouTube, and here's what I found. 1. Always try to get a stack of your passive from a bush. It sounds simple, but it helps every single one of your combos, and it makes it easier to clear faster. 2. Every ability has a reason to use when it is empowered. You want to use your empowered Q about 75% of the time because it's your main burst ability. You can also use your Q if your ferocity stacks are about to expire because it gives you a little burst of movement speed even if you don't hit anything. You probably want to use your empowered W about 15 to 20% of the time, especially if you're against a team with a lot of CC or you need to use it to stay alive in a really big fight. And you'll probably use your empowered E about 10% of the time. It helps you get picks and allows your team to follow up on ganks, but if you're ahead, I found using your empowered Q to just be better in most situations. 3. Your main burst combo is the 3Q combo, and here's how it works. In order to pull off this combo, you'll need full ferocity stacks before you go in, which you can get by killing a camp or just hitting something. Then, right before you jump with your ult or from a bush, you want to press your empowered Q for a movement speed boost and to just consume all of your stacks. When you jump, you want to spam all of your other abilities to refill your stacks, and then you get your fourth one from jumping in the first place. With 4 stacks, you'll have enough for a second empowered ability, which is usually your Q for burst, or your W to get rid of CC and run away, so you don't die. 4. Rengar's most basic combo is you jump, press Q, W, then E, and then whatever empowered ability you want. It's not the best every time, but if you're new to Rengar, it's really easy to remember pressing all 3 of those keys in a nice flow and just getting an empowered ability. 5. However, keep track of your ferocity stacks. I cannot tell you how many fights I started with like 1 or 2 stacks without realizing it, and then accidentally used the wrong empowered ability because I wasn't paying attention. Again, it sounds simple, but in the middle of a fight, or when you're rotating to a fight after doing a camp, it is surprisingly easy to lose track of your stacks. And 6, I've said this already, but Rengar's normal ganks kinda suck, so you really gotta be creative with how you play the early game. You can invade the enemy jungle, play around bushes near objectives, or go for more lane ganks and get kills with Rengar's incredible kit. And with that, on to some normal games. Going into ranked, I had my build figured out and I was more prepared than ever to succeed on Rengar. Just to get hit with a swift reminder that Rengar is still an incredibly hard champion to pull off. But just like the ebb and flow of the mighty ocean, for every famine game you have, you are bound to have a game where you feast. Despite this amazing game though, it did still leave a sour taste in my mouth because I have never liked champions that are this all or nothing. And it's not just me that experiences this. Looking at the match history of several Rengar players, they all seem to either have really good games or really bad games. There's really no in between. Unless you're this guy, Natty Nat, who has like an 80% win rate in Korean Challenger, he's balling out like every game. If I could just be like 30% of the player he is, this challenge is gonna go great. So as I kept playing Rengar, I could feel myself getting better and more comfortable. So even when I messed up things, I at least knew what I was messing up now. I was better at choosing my empowered abilities, like using my empowered E here to snare Nami after she flashed away instead of panicking and using my W or something. And doing my full combo was way more consistent now, dealing some actually pretty good burst damage even though I missed my E here. I was by no means perfect and still forgot to check my ferocity stack sometimes before going in, but again, my usage of abilities and jumping were way smoother. And that's when I started to actually play well. His damage was starting to make sense and I realized it wasn't Rengar that sucked, it was me the whole time. My confidence was back and I know you can see the improvements that I've made. Everything I was doing was just more fluid. I was also so much faster at finding openings to kill squishy targets. Even if an enemy tank was nearby, I was able to pull off clean kills now. I knew my leap ranges better, my movement speed, my burst, everything was coming together in a way I could not have imagined at the start of this challenge. I don't know how many of you watched the actual Rengar stream that I did, but for the first 4 or 5 hours, I felt so hopeless on this champion, so the fact that I made this much progress is kind of inspiring for me. I was even keeping track of my ferocity stacks now. I was slow to use my abilities here, but that's because I just didn't want to use the wrong one by mistake. Slow but right is better than fast but wrong. And I was using lane bushes to help secure kills and take advantage of Rengar's incredible mobility now. I'm just so excited and happy watching these replays because I know how frustrated I was at the start of this challenge. And now I was playing Rengar like it was second nature, absolutely destroying squishy targets left and right. But things wouldn't stay like that forever. Over the next few hours, the only word I can use to describe my experience was frustrating. Like, I could still feel all the improvement I had made over the last 7 hours, but I just started to struggle for various reasons. Sometimes it was the enemy team comp, like in this game. They had a tanky Malphite, a Zillion to revive whoever I assassinated, a Heimerdinger who built Hourglass second item, a Talia who stuns you whenever you use your mobility, and a Briar who is just one of Rengar's worst matchups. So even though I actually got off to a good start, I just literally couldn't play this game. Next, I was invaded level 1, which sucked. Then I was invaded again at my blue buff. Admittedly, I played this fight pretty poorly, but I'm pretty sure it's just because I was already frustrated at this point. He actually tried to invade me a third time, and I finally got some revenge, but I had fallen pretty far behind at this point. And like I said earlier, Rengar is a feast or famine champion, which means if you're not ahead, you're pretty much useless. Over this stretch of time, I discovered that I could play Rengar a lot better, but I had no idea what to do when things were less than ideal. Like if the enemy team comp was hard for me to deal with or I got invaded early, I just didn't know how to overcome those specific issues. I could play well under good conditions now, like if the enemy had an immobile squishy top laner like Teemo, but again, if my team fell behind and I lost control of my jungle, I would just panic and not know what to do, especially on Rengar. But then, when I finally had the perfect conditions, with a squishy immobile top laner like Gangplank to kill, a Malzahar mid to easily set up picks and just get fed, and an enemy jungler I was completely outplaying by, getting more objectives, CS, and kills. I would get flamed by our AD carry, he would start inting, going 0 and 15, and then actively tried to lose us the game. Some mistakes were my own, some I had no control over, but again, these hours were just frustrating. At this point, I was sick of losing. Sick of being helpless in games I knew I could have carried, so I decided to throw my anger aside and lock the heck back in. I had come too far for my journey to end in such a frustrating and anticlimactic way. Comboing and moving with Rengar was like second nature to me now, easily finishing off kills I would have completely blown back in hour 1. I had turned into the predator I was always meant to be. Wait, actually, maybe I shouldn't say that. Take that out of the vid. The point is, I had gone through a lot with Rengar. Different builds, different playstyles, different combos, all to get me to this final hour where I knew I could thrive. I may not have been the cleanest or the most stylish Rengar, but I was getting the job done now, and that's what matters. But at the end of the day, I started this challenge to compare Kha'Zix and Rengar, and at the end of the day, I don't even think it's a close competition. Kha'Zix is simply better than Rengar in almost every aspect of the game right now. And I'm not just saying this because I got a pentakill with Kha'Zix. I mean, Rengar does have a higher skill ceiling, which means the best Rengars in the world are some of the scariest people you'll ever meet in solo queue. Like Natty Nat's 85% win rate in his Korean Challenger climb. But at the end of the day, Kha'Zix is simpler. He gets resets off kills, has unconditional mobility, and is just a little bit more flexible due to his evolutions. Not to mention, Kha'Zix's damage isn't too shabby either. Don't get me wrong, I loved playing Rengar and uncovering all of his in-depth mechanics and playstyles. It just felt way more rewarding to play Kha'Zix in my opinion. At the end of the day though, both of these assassins are fun, they have a really cool rivalry with an in-game quest, and both do an absurd amount of damage. Oh yeah, I stream most days on Twitch and YouTube, so feel free to follow on Twitch or like, comment, and subscribe here on YouTube.